All right, before I get into today's video, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the daily struggle to stay lean, to stay fit. Today, as I'm looking um, at my watch, it says 1,200 calories burned, 120 minutes of continuous exercise, and 12 stand up and move arounds. That's how much you have to do if you want to stay fit. And sadly, most of us aren't going to do that. And right now, my body feels absolutely disgusting. I'm bloated from drinking all the water I had to just to keep up with the heat, with the Arizona heat, and doing cardio for 40 minutes in the morning, and just got back in the seat 40 minutes in the afternoon, and that's how much you're expected to work. That's how much you have to work out, and that's at the level that you have to work if you don't want to get left behind. And sadly, most of us are being left behind because we're not willing to do what it takes. If you're not willing to work 200 hours a week, then there's no sympathy for you. And you're probably asking yourself, how am I supposed to do that? Working multiple online jobs simultaneously. If you don't believe that, then I don't know what you believe in, because unless you're a high wage earner, you're not making it. And it's straight and simple. And right now, I'm just going to introduce my three other talking points. This video, excuse me, I just got back and I haven't settled down. Like, my blood pressure hasn't settled down literally from running back into the house. But I have no time. That's again coming down to I have no time to settle down. I've got to get this done, and I got to start working on another video. I got to start working on background images. I got to work on background footage. I'm even going to start working in music. And so there's no time ever in the day in which you're supposed to relax. And as I said, this video is mainly going to be going back to Mello's flight out of retail. Mello worked at the same grocery store for nearly 2 decades. They wouldn't promote her. They wouldn't let her, they wouldn't give her a living wage. They were basically waiting for her to leave. And that's what happened to my Gen Z as well. His story is exactly the same. His last job wouldn't offer more time. They offered no benefits, a non-living wage at $16 an hour, and they were just waiting for him to self-terminate. So when he put in his 2 weeks, they didn't let him put in his 2 weeks. They were like, we're not going to tolerate this level of behavior. And that's something that in the workplace is becoming far too common. We lost our third person in leadership today at the corporation. I don't know how you continue to lose your top officials and continue to be able to run as normal. It just doesn't happen. But with that said, I think I'm going to get into today's talking points before I completely run out of steam. Grocery stores deliberately hire unqualified, inexperienced managers to maintain control, preventing knowledgeable workers from making changes and challenging the system. I didn't believe this until I read this. And this talking point is coming from a comment that someone put down into the video that I made last night that I thought was full of very good points. So I decided to slice it up with AI and create this video. But I've noticed that grocery stores are like that. I've worked in a grocery store for extended periods of time, and the high school kids don't rock the boat. They may not have the experience, they may not have the education, but there's one thing that they do have: blind loyalty. For many of them, it's probably going to be the best job that they're going to get in their lives. Just like Alex across the street. She started working at Kroger's when she was 16. She's currently 22 years old, and she's a manager. Will she ever do better than this job? More than likely not. And when I talk to her, she brags about how she's the highest paid person among her friends in her own age bracket. Because that's who they want. Why would they want a 40-year-old person working in a grocery store that's going to challenge the system? That's not what they want. That's not what this system wants. They want loyal robots. And when the robots won't take the programming, again, coming back to the example of my Gen Z, he's starting to really fray at the edges. I can see it in every single thing that he does. He's not a worker, he's not an independent thinker. He has been a minimum wage retail, warehouse, and and restaurant worker his entire life. And I can see the personality. I see the traits that are not suitable for management, that are not suitable for high level positions, that are not suitable for a person that cannot adapt and overcome in his situation. He has no experience in the workforce. He is a classic bottom level person. And when you have people, when you deliberately hire unqualified people into positions, because who else are you going to hire at McDonald's? Underqualified people is who our society thrives on. 99% of the people out there in the workforce right now are unqualified to do basic jobs. And not because they're not intelligent, but because they're not motivated. No one's going to get motivated for a job that's in the $15 to $20 hour bracket. If you're working at a dollar store and you have been working there for a very long time, like I personally know a girl that I went to community college that worked at a Dollar General for more than 10 years. And she couldn't find a better job. And it's not because she wasn't educated or she was not intelligent. It's just no one would hire her. And this person still lives at home just after 40 years old, still renting from her parents. And she knows for a fact no one's going to hire her. And I feel the sentiment because this is the way that I felt in my entire life as well. I felt like my career was going nowhere. I kept getting into jobs that had no future, jobs that weren't going to promote me, and jobs that I felt were on the verge of letting me go, of terminating my employment because of poor work performance. And that's a huge problem in our society because if your employees aren't motivated, they're coming to a job that has no future. You're coming into a job that has no regular schedule, a job that has the highest turnover that you can possibly imagine. You see people looking for other jobs in real time. You hear them talk badly about where they work and about how much of their lives they've wasted in a job that never intended to do anything for them. It's like getting into a relationship with a loser. It's not going anywhere. He's going to string you along for the best years of your life, and then he's going to cheat on you with your best friend. This guy isn't marriage material, and you knew that. You knew that going into this relationship, an unholy relationship with a retail place. Or Johnny Sixpack. You think Johnny Sixpack's really going to think about your feelings once you find out that he banged your mom? Of course not. This is what Johnny Sixpack does. He has no morals. He doesn't think about the repercussions. He doesn't have feelings like a normal human being. Johnny Sixpack lives for one thing and one thing alone, and that's the thrusting. And if it's not with you, it's with someone else. Same thing with Evil Corp. Evil Corp doesn't care about your feelings, doesn't care about your financial situation, doesn't care about your future. Financially, it could care less about you tomorrow. If you didn't show up to work tomorrow, Evil Corp would just think, you know what? Someone else will come over here and grab their ankles for me because desperation is what large corporations thrive on. There is no loyalty. And I tried to explain this to Gen Z today, who still is kind of looking around. I mean, he's still waiting for his career to take off. And I just kind of looked at him today like, you don't have a career. You don't have a future. You're going to be the 40-year-old man living in your parents' basement until they're not there to support you anymore. And once your parents aren't there to support you, don't believe there's going to be a large inheritance that's going to come back and save you. Once your parents are gone, Gen Z, young millennials, you're going to be out on the street. because you can't make a living on the wages that you're being offered. Wow, that was a really long talking point. All right, talking point number two: large meat packers, which has reduced the need for skilled labor and driven down wages in grocery store. So in this comment, it's basically talking about the lack of need for high skilled jobs. When a job doesn't need a skilled worker, it drives down wages to the lowest point. And the same thing can be said with technology. Once everyone thought they were going to get rich and wanted to go to DeVry or ITT Tech, thinking, oh man, computers are always going to be a great source of income. And again, maybe if you're part of the 1% of the computer force, but if you're working at a help desk and you're not at the help desk because you want to be, you're at the help desk because you need work experience. They're not, even with all the certifications in the world, they're not going to give you a job just based on the certification. In fact, the Amazon certification for I believe a web server. Yeah, Amazon Web Services. I blanked on the name. Amazon Web Services actually requires you to have 2 years of experience to be able to get that cert. Now, how are you supposed to get that experience in order to get the certification? You basically are going to have to work for free. And a few generations of my workers back, I remember a kid that was working for free. He ended up working for free for 6 months. He gained nothing from that job. He had no tangible skills whatsoever. And that's what corporations love. The desperation of people who will work for nothing in order to get skills they can't use. Because the corporation doesn't want to upskill you. Because if they upskill you, you're going to walk across the street and take more money from their competitor. So what they want is to keep you at the lowest level humanly possible. And grocery stores are the number one culprit that does this to people. They want to reduce the need for skilled labor in order to make certain that their employees don't go sniffing around somewhere else. Because the last thing that Susie Rottencrotch wants is for Johnny Sixpack to realize that the world is full of Susies. That's the way they feel about workers. They don't want to upskill you, they don't want to hire you, and they don't want you sticking around. So then you're left in a situation where you're desperate. The people I used to work with at Kroger's, I'd say about half of them are still there. Why? Because they don't know that they can go somewhere else, or they can't go anywhere else because they're low skilled labor. There's no job in a grocery store that's not the general manager or higher up or a regional manager or something. Anything low level in the store at minimum wage is designed to keep you trapped for as long as possible. There has to be a 99% of low skill workers so we can have rich people. And our job market is flooded with bad jobs. And that's not a coincidence. That's intentional. When you go looking, like I've spent the last 2 weeks going on the job boards looking for a job. And I'm going to repeat what I've said in my videos thousands of times, because remember, before YouTube took me down exactly 30 days ago now, I had made an entire career, over 2,000 videos saying the same thing. You are screwed. And everyone wants to believe it's like, oh, he's just an angry person. He's just angry at the world because he's worked for minimum wage his whole life. Now, look around. How many people do you know that are in your immediate circle that could let you borrow $1,000 right now and tell you you don't have to pay it back? I don't know anyone. I've worked my whole life and not met a single person who could help another person out, let alone your family. If my family knew where I was right now, they wouldn't stop asking me for money. That's the situation that millions, tens of millions of people are in. They have no one to help them if they fall. If right now you are in a relationship with the person that you depend on in order to be able to make it, and that person walks out because they found another Susie somewhere, then you are in deep doo doo. And you know it. And you have to live in that constant fear all of the time. Because I've lived there on many occasions, knowing full well that any changes in the way that my world is right now will lead me to the street. And if you're not afraid of that, if you're not scared enough. One of my favorite expressions on the channel: you aren't scared enough of your financial demise. Because if you're in that $15 to $20 bracket, all that's waiting is for an accident to happen. Lose your job, have people who you depend on to help financially support your household leave, and you are going to be pulling down your pants all the way down to your ankles and feeling it where you don't want it for a very long time until you can become stable. All right, talking point number 3. By diminishing the need for experienced workers, grocery stores can justify low wages. Every industry in America somehow has to justify its low wages. And for experienced workers, even they are starting to feel the pinch. Because as we have more layoffs, as we have more downsizing, as we have economic slowdown, not just people at the bottom suffer. Experienced workers are going to suffer too. You're going to be working elbow to elbow with a person that you know from the second you meet them is underemployed at the pizza restaurant that you're working at. And I've been there. I've seen people who are underemployed taking jobs that are so far beneath them, it makes you want to cry. And then you meet people that even at that pizza restaurant, they're way too full of anxiety and depression and panic in order to do that job. I've been around those people, both in academics and in the workplace. They can't function. Even myself, I have sought to try to get Social Security benefits just so that I don't have to keep putting myself through the meat grinder of trying to go to work every day with clinical depression. I show up at work every day, and every day is a struggle for me to get through the day. Because I know at night I can never really stop and think that I'm safe. I spend all of my time when I'm not at Evil Corp thinking, what's the next bad thing going to happen? And not because I'm pessimistic. I'm a hell of a pessimistic, but it's happened to me repeatedly throughout my life where you lose your job and you're one paycheck away from living in your car. And that's no joke. Most people who are working hand to mouth realize that they're not too far away from financial ruin. Financial ruin stares at them in the face every morning when they wake up to brush their teeth. I was going to say feet. For some reason, I keep thinking of feet. I don't know what it is, guys, but a lot of men think about feet. It's a terrible, terrible thing to have. I wish that I could just shoot a very powerful laser between my eyeballs and get rid of thoughts of feet. Anyhow, that was really random. That's what I want you guys to take away from this channel. This channel is supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be random. We're supposed to say Susie Rotten Crotch 1,000 times in every single episode. But it's supposed to be funny. You know, all of us are up against the metaphorical Taco Bell wall right now. Out behind every Taco Bell in America is a Susie Rotten Crotch that's waiting to sniff the air and be ready to mate at a moment's notice. Susie will notice that she's in heat. She'll assume the position behind the Taco Bell. Somehow, Johnny Sixpack shows up out of thin air. Boom, hits it with Susie, and then he's gone just like that. And guess what? Susie's got a bun in the oven. And it keeps happening to Susie for the rest of her life. All right, guys. I had two other talking points, but I get distracted too easily. So, in toxic positivity, I put this. This is a bad job. All week long, the alerts inside of my Gen Z's brain have been going off like a rat in a maze that's being electrocuted and it's laying on its back because of learned helplessness. He now knows that this is a very bad job. And he must have asked me at least 5 times today in the office, who else do you think's going to quit now, Millennial Steam? And I'm like, you know what? If you have to keep asking yourself that question, then you know that you're in the rat maze and that you are about to lay on your backside and just accept the fact that the good vibrations are coming through the floor and that no amount of trying to get out of the way is going to get to keep you from getting those shocks. It's part of the rat race. It's part of the maze. It's part of the hamster wheel. The wage cage is not supposed to be comfortable. When you watch my videos, you're not supposed to go out with your friends and think happy thoughts. When you watch Millennial Steve, I want you to feel the hopelessness of your life and this dystopian nightmare we call the year 2024. Because it's not getting any better. We all know that it can get much worse. And the way that we see things right now, the predictions that we see from very smart people on the economy, they predict a society where we're all being electrocuted 24/7 only for bread and water.